Hi everyone, I'm going to talk a little bit about the parietal lobe of the brain. The parietal lobe is known for its sensory processing abilities, but it does a lot more than that. I'm going to explain a little bit about where it is in the brain, some of the landmarks of this lobe, what its functions are, and what can happen if it's damaged. It's located between the frontal and occipital lobes and above or superior to the temporal lobe. The boundaries of the parietal lobe are the central sulcus, which is also called the fissure of Rolando, and that is the anterior boundary of this lobe. This separates the parietal lobe from the frontal lobe. The posterior boundary, the parieto-occipital sulcus, separates the parietal and the occipital lobes. And then the lateral sulcus, which is known as the sylvian fissure, separates the parietal from the temporal lobe. There's also a longitudinal fissure that divides into two hemispheres. One important area to note is the primary somatosensory cortex, and this is the gyrus immediately in back of the Rolandic fissure. It runs basically parallel to the primary motor cortex of the frontal lobe, and the cells in this area respond to touch and pain stimuli all over the body. Posterior to the primary somatosensory cortex is the posterior parietal cortex, or the PPC. And the PPC is considered an association cortex because its functions include associating different types of stimuli and directing action plans for those stimuli. Cells in this cortex also plan motor actions, like reaching and grasping, as well as more complex sensory experiences. And then there are two other areas of importance which are the angular gyrus, located behind the sylvian fissure, and the supramarginal gyrus, which is located above and slightly in front of the angular gyrus. Both of these areas are associated with language, so are especially important to this class. The angular gyrus is involved in semantic processing, reading and comprehension, and social cognition, among its other functions. And the supramarginal gyrus is involved in relating individual speech sounds to the formation of words and connecting word meanings to actions. So if one area of the parietal lobe gets damaged, so the PPC, for example, if that's damaged, it can cause something called agnosia. And agnosia is the inability to recognize objects even though the sensory skills appear to be normal. This can affect either visual or auditory processes. And because the sensory skills appear to be normal, it's thought that a person with damage to the PPC is actually struggling with the connection of meaning to visual or auditory stimulation. So that's it. Thanks for listening to my explanation of the parietal lobe.